It's no secret that Jack Grealish hasn't quite lived up to expectations since his big money move from Aston Villa to Manchester City, and things haven't been helped by a string of poor performances this season. Shearer believes that Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola has shown that he doesn't like Grealish and has backed the City boss to offload the England international this summer. So in this video, we'll take a look at what Shearer had to say about Grealish, why the Man City boss doesn't like him, and whether he'll leave the Etihad Stadium this summer. First of all, here's what Shearer had to say about Grealish and his future at Man City. I think it's pretty clear that Pep doesn't like him, and I think he will get rid of him in the summer. He didn't even come on at the weekend. He's not really wanted. As we saw at the World Cup, he can play as a number 10 and do a job there, but I think he's going to move on. He's a very expensive player, and they've got other targets. They want to do other business. I think he'll move on. He's an England player, an important England player, but he's not really pushing. He's not getting in the team, and when he does play, he's not really doing enough to say, I can't leave you out. So I do agree with Alan Shearer here. We've seen recently that whenever Grealish has started games for Man City this season, he's either been taken off or substituted late on in the game, because simply he just hasn't been effective enough in an attacking sense. And he's not chipping in with goals or assists. Not only that, but if you look at the underlying data as well, his progressive runs, his progressive passes, his key passes, his through balls, all of those creative actions that he would have to do to influence a game have all been pretty ineffective this season. What's interesting, though, is that this is the exact same argument that was being made last season, that Grealish just wasn't pulling his weight at Man City and that Pep Guardiola didn't like him. But then Grealish came back firing in the second half of the season and managed to turn things around. He actually scored 7 Premier League goals in the second half of last season and provided 3 assists, which is pretty decent for a wide midfielder. And he did that whilst playing on the wing for the most part. The problem this season, though, is that Grealish hasn't been able to replicate that form whatsoever, and in fact he's arguably played worse than he did in his debut season. As Shearer mentioned, he did start one game more than he did last season, but he still scored less goals and has fewer assists despite playing one extra game. However, the biggest indication that Pep Guardiola does not rate Grealish is that he was an unused substitute in the FA Cup final on Saturday, which was a huge shock in itself. And I do agree with Alan Shearer that this probably does spell the end for Grealish at Manchester City. Considering the form that he's been in this season, he probably wouldn't get in the starting lineup anyway, but that doesn't usually mean that he'd be named on the bench. But with Ilkay Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and possibly even Julian Alvarez all being preferred to him ahead of the FA Cup final, it does show that he's fallen out of favor with the manager, and it also makes me think that he could leave this summer. What's interesting is that we've already seen Kevin De Bruyne leave the club and head back to his native Belgium, bringing an end to his 9-year stay at Manchester City, and it looks like Grealish could be the next big name to leave the club this summer. Who do you think will be the first to leave? The club legend Kevin De Bruyne or the expensive Jack Grealish? Let me know your thoughts.